presentation. How the grays became gray, and why most people have never heard of the most influential artist of the 20th century. Okay, well, 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005.
Brothers in Mississippi.
2007.
Or hippopotamus.
8 hippopotamus. Menlo Park, 1977. It's a bright and sunny day, but I want you to imagine a dark night, and I'm outside, about 6 years old, and there's a flash above me, something like fireworks. I look above me, and there's a spaceship that really shouldn't be there. A light comes down, I feel myself rising into the air, and to my horror, a face appears in front of me. It's gray, it has really strange, compelling eyes, a small mouth, and I scream, and I wake up. But, and I'm pretty sure that what I was having in 1977 is what we call a dream. But I wasn't apparently alone in having this sort of experience, because in the late 80s, a book came out called Communion by a man named Whitley Strieber. And now Whitley Strieber was, he proclaimed that he had been abducted by aliens. Many people believed that they had been doing so, but we weren't the first. The first were Betty and Barney Hill. Now, back in 1961, Betty and Barney Hill were coming back from a vacation in Canada, and they reported that they had seen a strange light following them in the sky, and that as they were driving along, they saw this thing come close to them and swoop by their car, and so they drove home. And when they got home, they realized that they had 30 minutes, actually more like an hour or two, of missing time. They did not know where they had been for those 2 hours. So Betty started to have nightmares of where she was abducted by mysterious men. And she started writing them down, putting them together to make some sort of chronological sense out of it. And they became increasingly concerned about this, I guess as you would, and so now Betty believed that she initially described the aliens, not kind of like what we see today, but they looked more like Jimmy Durante. They had really long noses. They were bald, but they were sort of little hairy guys with really big long noses. They weren't the current concept of the alien. But one day, Barney Hill came in for his hypnosis session because they didn't remember anything until they were hypnotized, and they remembered being abducted by these strange aliens. Barney Hill comes in one time in 1964, and he describes the classic alien. The gray skin, the sort of small nose, those strange, compelling eyes. It was actually made into a TV movie with James Earl Jones and Estelle Parsons there. And so the question really is, where does this image come from? I mean, it's everywhere in culture now. This is from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Why does everybody, when Whitley Strieber's, I'm going to keep doing that. When Whitley Strieber's novel came out, everybody reported a feeling of familiarity, as though they'd seen this all over the place. Well, here's the artist, Wah-Ming Chang. Now, most people have never heard of him, but he started out doing, he was actually a local boy. He was born in Hawaii, but lived in San Francisco, went to school in Menlo Park, oddly enough. And he started out doing armatures for Disney. This was for Bambi. He did models to give the animators inspiration, and he was also did Snow White, Fantasia, but he also did he built the time machine for that movie in 1960. I forget what it was called, and he was really the go-to guy. And he won an Oscar, but he was a very self-effacing man. You rarely see Wah-Ming Chang in the credits, but he also and invented the communicator, which, of course, we know today as the cell phone. Because the StarTAC original flip cell phone was specifically designed to be inspired by this. But he also developed alien figures. He was the main costumer on Star Trek, and so this is the Gorn that sort of had to walk around like this. I don't think its legs bent very well. And Kirk had to invent gunpowder in order to destroy it. And you can see, yes, and I haven't been able to determine if he invented the slee stack or not. I know that he worked on the show of Land of the Lost, but it certainly looks like his style. He always had the big eyes, and he sort of very compelling eyes. It was often a small nose, and but one of the main things, one of the most interesting things, is he worked on Outer Limits. Now this is from the Bolero Shield, which was shown in 1964. This alien face was a major portion of it, and it was shown 8 days before Barney Hill came in for his hypnosis session, when he suddenly described the modern gray alien. Now, I left out a little bit of a thing in the beginning. See the horrible face? I'd seen it before somewhere. In fact, I'd seen it at the end of every single episode of Star Trek. Because as a little bit of a joke, they'd taken the false face of Baylock, a sort of metapuppet, and put it on the end. But so I believe, ladies and gentlemen, that the reason why the grays are gray, why the current popular culture image of the alien is gray, is because in the 1960s, there were a lot of black and white television sets. Thank you.